and CBS News political director John Dickerson is here. John, good morning.
Good morning, Nora.
So we heard Speaker John Boehner says he doesn't have the votes to put a clean bill to fund the government without Obamacare. Is that true?
Well, it's a little bit different. Basically, John Boehner is not holding the vote because he wants to use the vote as leverage in trying to get some spending concessions out of the White House. But that's different than what he said. He suggested it was a metaphysical certainty that a vote would fail because the president is the obstacle. So what the White House is saying is, OK, hold the vote. Let's see. And a lot of news organizations have tallied up some Republicans who've been willing to either vote on a funding mechanism that would continue funding the government or on one that would raise the debt limit with no conditions attached. Speaker Boehner's not going to do that.
And so the new element is that Speaker Boehner's now talking about spending beyond defunding Obamacare.
Right. And this is politically, it makes sense because so far the original Republican gambit was to call for the total lack of funding or remove all funding in Obamacare just to keep the government open for 2 months. That has been a political loser. What is better ground for them to fight on is the idea of tying some spending reductions to raising the debt limit. That polls much more favorably for Republicans. So he's trying to move to that turf. Of course, the White House has said, we're not going to deal with you on this at all.
In terms of the battle, in terms of the spin of all this, is the fact that the president says, I'm not going to negotiate until you actually pass a continuing resolution and agree to raising the debt ceiling, and then we can talk about it, who wins?
Well, right now, the president is in better shape on that, particularly when it's on this question of defunding Obamacare. The polls have shown consistently that people don't like tying funding the government to defunding Obamacare. But when you shift it to a question of should there be any spending reductions as a condition to raise the debt limit, the president is on slightly weaker ground there. Now, where we are now, though, is how do you find a way out of this? And there is a little bit of a template. In January of 2013, the House did vote to raise the debt limit with no strings attached. But they had a kind of a little side agreement. And that side agreement was that the Senate would vote on a budget. The Senate hadn't done that in a while. And so it was a side agreement that allowed that clean debt limit vote to go forward. There's a chance you could see an agreement of that shape coming out at some point.
And do you think that side deal to help move things will ultimately be about the president giving some ground on entitlements?
Well, yes, except the president said, I won't negotiate. So it'll have to be a kind of a wink of a side deal. But of course, if the side deal is not strong enough, if it doesn't contain some real teeth, some real commitments to negotiate in the future on entitlements, on tax reform, a lot of Boehner's conservatives won't go for it. So it's in crafting that side deal in a way that seems legitimate that will, allow this kind of a compromise to come about. But that's still a long way off.
And the bottom line on the debt ceiling, if that means default, that's a very serious thing.
An extremely serious thing.
Yeah. John Dickerson, thank you.